Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You are about to listen to the Totally Super Awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast.
This podcast is our fan tribute to the Incredible Hulk TV show. Be advised that has been exposed to radiation, and we caution to listen at your own risk. You have now entered GammaCast.
And welcome to the GammaCast. I'm your host, Charlie the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is 80s Music Girl,
Rose Fullerton.
Yay, Rose.
Yay! I don't know why my own name is funny, but it is. I don't know.
Everyone's name is funny. Welcome, Rose.
No, I'm laughing at your Hulk growl. It's so awesome.
I've worked hard my whole life. I mean, honestly, I used to do this Hulk growl when I was a kid, and it's finally paying off. Now I get to amortize it. It's great.
Great.
Write it off my taxes. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 2, Prometheus, Part 2. First air date. When did that air date go? November 14th, 1980. This is the second episode of the fourth season of The Incredible Hulk, starring Bill Bixby and Jack Colvin and the always awesome Lou Ferrigno. Tonight's episode directed by Kenneth Johnson, written by Kenneth Johnson, and also written by Kenneth Johnson. He gets all the credits this week.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Project Prometheus gathers a group of scientists to study the captured Hulk, whom they suspect of being an extraterrestrial. Jack McGee has sneaked into the compound after... it's not giving me the full thing here. He snuck onto the compound. So basically, we got Jack on the compound. We get this really pretty awesome scene of them like taking the captured Hulk into the lab, and we get like here's one of these things I'm gonna say, like, for the props department. You know, on one level I was thinking, oh man, I see how they're like saving money using the Universal backlot here. But then, like, this whole thing with the giant steel dome with the punch holes in it, I kind of feel like they blew their budget there. I'm not sure.
That was pretty intense.
That was pretty intense. And you actually had to see, like, you'd see, like, the punches coming out, like, boom, boom, boom. That was pretty intense.
Yeah.
But you see Jack going along with it and just watching everything very dumbfounded. Which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But then we get to meet our elite group of scientists. We open up with the old man at the children's birthday party. That is Dr. John Zeiderman, played by the always awesome Whit Bissell, who, again, this is his second appearance here. He was also in The Incredible Hulk. He was the lead archaeologist on, where was it? Kindred Spirits. You know, which was when we find the Proto-Hulk. He was Professor Williams. That was, of course, an excellent episode with, what's her name? From Sex and the City.
Sarah Jessica Parker?
No, Kim Cattrall. Who played Dr. Gabriel White.
Oh, I keep, Sarah Jessica Parker was the only person in that show.
No, Kim Cattrall, the true star of Sex and the City. The only one who really actually didn't care about, like, getting married and having a man, the only one that was actually living the Sex and the City lifestyle was Kim Cattrall.
Well, because she's the only one that could.
Yeah, well, you know what? She was an adult woman who, quite frankly, was done with all the nonsense. And
Oh, absolutely.
I will always have a special place in my heart for Kim Cattrall. But she got her start, like so many actors and actresses, in The Incredible Hulk, playing Dr. Gabriel White, who was a Native American archaeologist who was passing as white. Yeah.
I'll have to go back and watch that episode.
It's actually a good episode. It was about her struggles as this person who, wanted to get off the reservation, but didn't want to necessarily sacrifice her history and personality. But at the same time, she found herself in that spot where she could neither be comfortable on the reservation, because when she went back to the reservation, everyone was like, "Oh, well, you're that person who left." And when she would go off the reservation, everyone's like, "Oh, well, you're that Native American girl, and can I touch your hair?" and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
Now, of course, it was played by Kim Cattrall, who's a very white young woman, but we move on from there. So that is our
rabbit trail.
Yes. So that was Dr. Zeiderman, who we had seen. The other actor we see in here is Carol Baxter, Dr. Charlene McGowan, who was in. Now she's actually pretty cool because she actually has a lot of writing credits. She actually went on to write another episode of The Hulk called The Wax Museum in 1981. She wrote many episodes of She-Ra, Princess of Power, and she actually played Renee Stevens in the episode Haunted, where she plays the schizophrenic identical twin who took her other twin's identity after her sibling died.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's where we first get the introduction of Hulk therapy, which is that you see the Hulk, it kind of shocks all the crazy out of you. But and then our third Doctor, who apparently Dr. Jason Spath, played by Arthur Rosenberg, who apparently is he's a roboticist. Who likes to use his robots to seduce nubile young women.
Yeah, that I had a little problem with that one. I like the fact that when they had, Hulk in that containment area, that Hulk tried to break his arm. I was like, yeah, he knew.
Yeah, well, you know what? For what it's worth,
he knew what you'd been up to.
Hey, here's what I'm gonna say. I think she was into it. She might have been a robot fetishist.
I'm not saying that she wasn't, but the fact that that whole scene, truthfully, didn't. It
was a little creepy, yeah. It was a little weird. This is actually this actor's second appearance. Again, a person who's been in a previous Hulk. He was in Earthquakes Happen, which was our season 1, episode 11. He was Jason Sains. I believe he was one of the safety operators at the nuclear power plant. And that it was a good episode, but that was actually one of the most to me. That's one of the most interesting episodes because it was an episode where Jack McGee was sent on another Science Beat report, and the Hulk showed up. Which was like before the Hulk had gotten to be this big story, he still had other stories he had to do. And that's where we sort of get this idea that Jack McGee might have been the Science Beat reporter, where he was the guy because if Jack McGee's a legitimate reporter, he's always going to want to have something legitimate to investigate. So they'd probably send him out on like, look, there's the new nuclear power plant that they're opening here. There's this scientist experimenting with ultimate human physical potential. We want you to interview him. And that's Jack McGee's beat. And then he gets the Hulk, and then the Hulk keeps on showing up on his beat as he's investigating science stuff. That's my take on Jack McGee. Again, all headcanon. He was also in Footloose. He played Wes Warnicker. And he was being there as Morton Hull, and he was in Cujo as Roger Breakstone. So this guy's been around the 1980s pretty well.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's been. Yeah, well, like I always say with this show, you get a lot of actors who are just these great characters who just are in the system and they just keep on, they say, hey, we need a guy to do this. Well, let's get that guy who likes to seduce women with robots.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be great. And
Yeah.
then Arthur Rosenberg has another job. So this episode, we basically get everyone being brought in. We have the military guy going out, bringing in all these three great minds, these three great scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And what's weird, of course, to me is that so I can see why you might want the archaeologist anthropologist. We don't really know what Zeiderman's thing is. I think he's supposed to be a linguist. I'm not quite sure.
With the whole kid thing and the birthday party, this is just me once again, talking out of nowhere. But I kind of gathered that he possibly worked with children who were above their intelligence, maybe. Like they were like super genius kids or something, and
I just thought it was his granddaughter. But that's a much cooler backstory that he's like this guy who's used to dealing with hyper intellects. That's pretty cool. I like that. I'm that's written into the headcanon now. I love that.
Yeah, it's probably what you said though.
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah, well, because he says to the young woman there,
yes.
and she clearly knew what was going on, but hey, maybe she's her assistant at the super genius school,
Yeah.
So it's like, I can totally buy that. But they have him, they have the anthropologist, and then they have Robot Man.
Yeah.
But then again, not for nothing, I think the Robot Man probably makes the most sense because obviously if you're going to be in, because most likely you're actually going to get a Voyager probe before you get an alien.
True.
So you're going to get that robot that comes to investigate before you get actual Hulk. But they got an actual Hulk, so that was pretty cool too. And and in this we have the Hulk sort of sealed in what they call a microwave field, which I thought was actually pretty ingenious. A pretty ingenious take on a force field that you just had the focused microwaves and that as he tries to push through it, it burns him and that pushes him back.
Right.
And of course, it also kind of explains why he's still in a Hulk state for such a prolonged period. Because every time he tries to calm down, he gets burnt.
Right.
Because, of course, the Hulk is always in a fight or flight state.
He is.
And so he's either going to want to fight or he's going to want to flee. And if he can't fight because he keeps on getting burned, he's going to want to flee, but he can't flee because if he flees, he gets burned. And that makes him want to fight. And so he's always in this ongoing... Yeah, it's in a feedback loop. So,
and if I'm not mistaken, I think they had remnants of the meteor as well.
Yes,
within his reach. Yeah.
Well, they brought that in because they're trying to figure out how to communicate with him. And what's funny is that the anthropologist starts talking, and he's clearly having something of a reaction to it. And they say, well, let's replay his own sounds back to him, and they play back the growl, and of course that makes him angry. But then they don't go back to, well, let's try and go back to calming talk, Let's try and communicate with him. But
we did our best. It just made him mad.
Yeah, we're not gonna mess around with this too much.
Yeah.
But then the meteor, and that really drives him nuts. And they're trying to get it out of there, and he grabs the meteor and he throws it. And then we get what I think is one of this great classic Hulk thing where he just starts hitting the floor.
Yeah.
And he just digs his way out.
That's reasoning.
Well,
even in the Hulk state, he's like, okay, if this doesn't work, going out doesn't work and going down will work.
Well, yeah, and not for nothing, it worked, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
honestly, you
It
might have
did.
kept on digging through dirt till he got to the center of the earth, but you know what? I think the Hulk would have been more than happy to do that at that point. You
I
know?
think he did.
And that's kind of the thing,
Uh,
is he just, yeah.
what did you? Now this is just me again.
hmm
I'm always saying that, but what when my brain works, it kind of works overtime. So when they're bringing him in and they're coming into this secret underground facility, did it seem like an exceptionally long time that they were doing all that scientific talking and standing by and numbered this and lettered that and this team do this and that team? It was just like, really? This is all the dialogue you got?
Yeah, it was very
whole
much
scene.
filler. I'm not going to say it's not filler, Rose. I'm not going to say that they weren't
I know.
padding this
I
episode.
just couldn't help myself. It just seemed like it was like 10 minutes. It was like 15 minutes. How long was
But for what it's worth,
scene?
I mean, there's two things this does. First off, that's very realistic.
Yeah.
Because if you're a guy who likes to watch NASA launches, you will see that it's that 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is literally the last 10 seconds. And prior to that, it's all Operation 1 doing this, Operation 2 doing that, da 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 da, confirm, Roger, over under. It's very much like that. It's seen in Airplane, which Roger, vector, what's our vector, vector. And it is that call and response thing, because that's how you maintain an orderly transition in that kind of highly technical environment. You give a command, you get a response, give a command, you give a response, and then that way we know that you heard my command, you heard my response. We keep on check to check to check to check. And so that makes sense. And what it gives you is get this moment of Jack McGee dumbfounded at basically unveiling, oh my goodness, there is a story bigger than the Hulk, and I'm in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I have to debate,
That was an Academy Award winning, intense staring and disbelief.
Yeah, but honestly, when I'm watching this episode, I'm thinking like, this is like one of those amazing Jack McGee episodes where you get this fantastic Jack McGee bit, but at the same time, you never really get anything from Jack McGee. You never get him saying, oh, well, you don't get him saying anything, you just get him reacting. But at the same time, it's still a pretty impressive Jack McGee moment. And I love that about the whole thing. It is really fantastic the way they handle it. Anyway, so we get our trapping of the Hulk. We never really see how they separate the woman from the Hulk, etc., but they do. So we're just going to let that pass. And we see them bringing the woman into the secure chamber with everyone in their hazmat suits. And they're like, well, she seems human.
Their little yellow outfits and bubble head masks.
Yeah. And then they...
take her clothes off. What? Well.
Yes, well.
Okay.
Okay. But they go through all that. And meanwhile, the Hulk is downstairs. They send Pervy Robot Man in after him, and he gets what happens to Pervy Robot Man.
I was happy about that.
He gets his hands a little bit realigned, and in that, and I'm trying to remember what happens first. So first we get Jack McGee finding the gentleman in the control room, and he's like,
yes.
Yeah, no, I was just watching and I love that he's wearing the green scrubs, so the guy knows he's an officer. And I just love that concept that,
Me too.
I can see you're an officer because of the outfit you're wearing. And I'm just going to go along with whatever you say. And I love Jack.
Yeah, someone of authority. I'm obviously doing something I have business doing. Now I have to answer to you. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. That was.
And look, because there's a half a moment of recognition from the guy where he's like, "Wait, are you sure you're supposed to be here?" When Jack McGee is asking him to explain what's going on.
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, the guy kind of dismisses it, and Jack McGee covers it. It's like, well, I have to know what you know. And
Yeah. There you go.
and for what it's worth, the guy knows he was doing wrong. And
Yes.
that's the point of it. It's like he knows.
That's where he's got him cornered.
Yeah.
Basically, I'll rat you out. So
Exactly. So
go get some coffee.
Yeah, go get some coffee. And then Jack McGee is going through the thing, and he says, "Oh wow, this opens up to the UN. This opens up to this. This opens up to that."
Yeah.
And he gets to see here's all of the different agencies involved in this very complex situation, and then he goes out and he finds our lovely blind girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say this, just a spoiler on this. I was really impressed that they did not give her sight back at the end of the episode.
I was actually thinking that all of that tossing and running about and falling and all of that, the gamma radiation itself could have,
I know. Well,
it reminded me of a line from Christmas Vacation.
Mm-hmm.
When the grandmother looks at Eddie's daughter and says, "Oh, her eyes aren't crossed anymore." And he basically explained to her how they got crossed in the first place, kicked in the head by a mule, and are uncrossed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly was looking for some type of similarity there, like, oh, I fell against radiation and my optical nerve is fine now. So,
yeah, I was almost waiting for something like that to happen. Although I realize that's not the way they play things in the Hulk.
No.
It is.
And shame on me for thinking of something so trite.
Well, yeah. For what it's worth, the Incredible Hulk does play with convention and what you expect, and that's why I think this show. That's why I think this show had this staying power, was because it does play with your expectations, because your expectation is, oh, they're going to do this next. Oh, this is what's going to happen next. And then it's like, oh, well, that's not exactly what they did, and that's kind of cool. So basically the Hulk has escaped. Everything's in a panic. They catch Jack and the blind girl.
Yeah.
And again, as you said, Ballsy McGee, here he steps up. It's basically like, look, you think this is an alien. It's not. But it's still really freaking impressive, isn't it? And let me tell you something. I know more about this than you can imagine. And I can help you deal with it. I can help you catch it.
Yeah.
And they get to this point. Yeah, they get to this point where they've cornered the Beast, they've cornered the Hulk, and McGee tries to talk to it, but of course the girl already knows this is McGee. We don't trust him, because when he first said he's McGee, she knew right then.
Right.
And she was like, okay, you can help me get out of here. I'll go along with that, but I ain't gonna give you any information. In fact, she says he didn't tell me his name.
Yeah.
And when he's saying to David, because at this point David's gone back to the half Hulk form.
Yes.
He says, John, and she whispers in his ear, he thinks your name is John. Don't correct him.
Just go
with it. Yeah, and that was, it was a really great point in that, because again, it's this idea that, Jack McGee, he has got so many pieces right in front of him, but he can't put them together. You know? And it almost makes you feel really sorry for Jack McGee, because you know how close he is, and he knows more about this than anybody.
You don't want to help him either. He does, but you still don't want to help him.
Yeah.
Because he's not the protagonist here.
Honestly, I guess. See, that's for me. See, I always root for the antagonist. It's just a weird thing for me. Because the antagonist always loses, and I always identified with the guy who loses because I always felt like a loser. And I always want the antagonist to, like, just, put the pieces together, become a better person, and move on to the next level,
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, if it would have been a different situation, I'm sure, that probably would have been the case. But, you're coming up against, a superhero.
I know, but I guess on some level, as I've progressed in my life, I have found myself less identifying with the superheroes. I find myself more identifying with J. Jonah Jameson than Spider-Man as life goes on, and I worry about these menaces taking law into their own hand.
It happens.
But anyway, but Jack tells him, look, we can talk the guy down. Don't rush him, because if you rush him, he's going to tear this place apart. He says, you have no idea the power of this creature. And of course, do they listen to Jack Rose?
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
They don't listen.
Yeah, they use Jack as a distraction. They come around and try to dart the Hulk. And for what it's worth, we really get the evidence here, because Jack's always trying to dart the Hulk. At this point, we see darting don't help the Hulk, don't hurt the Hulk.
No.
Once he's at Hulk stage, now you're just picking him with friends, and he does not like that.
Yeah.
And then the Hulk literally tears the place apart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, literally, and we get, like, what I think is one of the most amazing Hulk scenes we've ever gotten, which is as they're trying to get out, and there's, like, this super hydraulic thing to close the super steel doors.
Yeah.
And you see the Hulk just push, and you see, like, the danger red line.
Mm-hmm.
It just red lines it, and all of a sudden the pipes with the hydraulic oil are bursting that are meant to hold it in place. And that's like, and you realize that this is the thing that, like, holds up the mountain, or that this is what is, like, this is in case of nuclear explosion. This is what's supposed to contain it. Yeah. And the Hulk just is like, boom. No.
Yeah.
I'm the
Not
Hulk.
anymore.
Yeah. And then him and Katie run off.
Yeah.
And he gets to go back to being Banner because now he's far enough away from the meteor, which is now under the mountain, which is on fire, because the mountain the mountain is on freaking fire. So he's good on that. Yeah.
Not enough fire extinguishers to put that bad boy out.
No. And that is the end of our dramatic part of the episode.
Yeah.
And then we get our recap. And this is what I thought was kind of interesting. Of course, we know that we have David and Katie having their moment of, hey, thanks for the adventure and thanks for the sweet lovin'. We assume
that you assume that they had, but you're not really sure.
Yeah,
because it's primetime TV in the '80s, and they're not going to tell you.
Yes, but they're oh yeah, man, that's I tell you, you really want that fun part. Go back and watch. Was it Never Give a Trucker an Even Break in season 2? That is like the most explicit, like, where the young woman in that is like, hey, look, I'm not looking to marry you. But there's lots of things I want to share with you. So that was a good episode. Hey, man, it was still the 70s back then.
Yeah.
Wasn't the Reagan era yet. We could still get away with some stuff. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, could you imagine electing an actor president? Oh, crazy.
I know. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it? Part of me thinks that our current political situation is just, time travelers trying to make sure that we had similar weird jokes to say 20 years from now.
Yeah,
it's like,
there you go.
Who's
I love
president?
it. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Donald Trump, the reality show actor?
Oh, I know. Crazy
who's
that?
Secretary of State? forgetting the girl's name, the orange girl from Jersey Shore, but that's who you would have as that. But
Snooki?
Snooki, yes. Who's going to say Snooki? Just wait, he's going to point Snooki to something, and it's not going to be funny anymore.
Nope.
We should be funny,
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, or Paris Hilton. Though Paris Hilton is actually a pretty intelligent young woman and actually has a great deal of business acumen. And
Yes, she does.
And for what it's worth, like the one person I think that was actually possibly a good appointment of his was Linda McMahon, and head of the SBA, because the World Wrestling Federation was a small business when it started out and became big, and someone who understands those struggles, I think that's a pretty good thing. So there we go. For once, I'm going to give you positive stuff about our current political climate. I never do that, but I'm going to say that was a good choice. Okay, moving right along. But what I loved about this is after that whole thing, we then get Dr. Charlene McGowan and Jack sitting in a car.
Yeah.
And it's like, I did not see that coming. And it's one of these weird things, because you can imagine that, okay, Jack needs someone to talk to. Who's going to be the one talking to Jack? And I don't know if it was Jack Colvin who said, well, make it the pretty girl.
Well, yeah, because she had knowledge of what was going on.
Well, yeah,
the other two didn't.
You could have had Zeiderman. You could have the old man. You could have had a Robo-Perv. Or you could have even had...
Love it, Robo-Perv. That's great.
Could have even had the Colonel, who was,
No, he's not going to say anything. It's come on now.
I mean, obviously, it is... When you break it down, it is the most logical, but it is like, wow, the hot ladies love our leads. Isn't that ironic?
Oh, the irony.
Yes, but they basically, and for what it's worth, they do. It's an interesting thing in this, because they kind of suggest this was their first interaction with a alien life form. Although this files that Jack had already seen kind of implied that maybe not. Maybe they had more stuff. But this was their first encounter with an alien, which maybe implies that maybe stuff has fallen to Earth before, just not anything sentient yet. So, yeah, it was, this was really one of the great sci-fi episode for The Incredible Hulk, and honestly, I really loved it. This was a fantastic season opener for season 4.
It was. Totally amazing.
I think if you were watching this back in the 1980s, we were like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next week?
Yeah.
And sadly, we have no idea what happened next week, because Hulu doesn't give us that yet. But we're gonna find that. If we have to, we're gonna download the dang thing off of Amazon.
Yeah.
If Amazon Prime gave it to you as streaming, it'd be fine. But it's like, no, you have to just get Amazon, and then you have to buy it. And so,
wow.
But
That's
we'll make it work. Yeah, we're gonna make it work. Okay, Rose, final thoughts on tonight's episode?
Yes. First of all, the big red thingy that came out of the sky, attached to the helicopter. You find out later that it is 14 inches of homogenized steel. That's like telling me the Hoover Dam has a gazillion gallons of water. I'm like, how do I put that in perspective? I don't. I just go, oh wow, that's awesome.
Well, homogenized. So let me. I'm going to bring it, because I heard that too. Homogenized means that it is uniform throughout. So what we're assuming here, it is some kind of highly purified steel. Now, honestly, that doesn't necessarily work, because really an alloy would be stronger. So saying it is 18 gauge titanium steel would have been smarter. But obviously, you know what it is? I'm not even sure if they had invented adamantium yet in the Marvel Universe. So I think they didn't have because adamantium came about with Wolverine. Even though everyone knew that Captain America's shield was indestructible, no one had actually said what it was made out of until Wolverine. And Wolverine is where they came up with this idea of adamantium. And that wasn't until the that wasn't until the later 80s with Chris Claremont. So, and that, incidentally, that is why when you go to the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe, Captain America's shield is now vibranium rather than adamantium, because vibranium was what Marvel still owned. That was the one magic, mythical metal they still owned. And they could have called it vibranium here, but of course, again, that's that anti-fan service. So they didn't have something to call it. So they could have called it titanium, but they also wanted to have it hand wavium so that no one could say, well, here's how strong that would be, and here's how strong the Hulk would be.
Right.
So
which is great.
They came up with
I appreciate the comparison. I really do. It's just, one of those things, like I said, let's dumb it down for the rest of us here who aren't in the show.
Just know that homogenized steel is steel that is really good.
Right.
If I really wanted to go into it, because see, now you get my science nerd thing. Homogenized milk is basically a suspension where you have the cream suspended within the milk so that the cream doesn't separate. So what you have, you could say it is a steel alloy where the carbonized steel is held within other bits of carbonized steel, essentially creating a crystalline lattice that would give a heavier structural strength to the steel. So there we go.
Sense. That's awesome.
Fully headcanoned. There we go. That's
totally get that.
Okay.
Couple more points. I had a problem with the voice of, air quotes, Prometheus. I didn't have a problem with the voice. It's just it was extremely recognizable to me, and I couldn't think of who it was. And at first, I thought, okay, sounds kind of like Peter Graves, but no, he wouldn't have done that. And then it took me on this journey to find out, who he was. And in episode 2, they actually show you someone called Brad. And then I put it all together and find out that it's Monty Markham.
Okay.
And and he'd been quite a big TV presence in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. And actually, he's still out there working today. But it was just one of those little things that just kind of drives you nuts enough to make you want to do research for like an hour and then give up and then go, oh, okay, well, maybe I should watch the second part and see what happens.
You see,
but,
what's funny, I thought you were talking about the female voice over the intercom, which I always just assume is Majel Barrett. Anytime I hear a female disembodied voice, I always just assume it's Majel Barrett.
No, it was the guy, because he was in the first episode. He was on the intercom, and they were calling him Prometheus.
Oh, yes,
and then it was just kind of like Prometheus, and instead of being an entity of several people, I was under the impression that it was just a guy.
Well, you know what? Here you have this thing, because they do refer to him specifically as Prometheus. It suggests that there is a Prometheus behind the scenes that they've named the organization after.
Right.
Which, for what it's worth, if we're going to go into that weird headcanon with the organization that of mythic creatures that the Hulk dealt with under Peter David in the 90s, that makes perfect sense. So you know what? That maybe there is a Prometheus in there. Okay.
There is.
Next thought.
And and that like I said, once I figured that out, then I let that go. And then it's always the last scene in the television episode where David is on his way. Off he goes back to his wandering and traveling about, and there's that brown bag. And I'm like, was that like a standard style of bag? How many of those things did he actually own? Well, really? Because you never really see it until the end of the episode. This is the third time I've seen that brown bag, and I'm going, no. I'm sorry, there's just no way.
Yeah, well, because he always has. Well, because here's the thing. Okay, I'm gonna. The brown bag it was a standard thing at this point, and you'll see this. You actually saw this. Spider-Man always had a brown bag that he kept his clothes in. In the comic books, and then of course you ever watch Bosom Buddies later in the 80s, they always had the big satchels that they kept there. Because when they had to do a quick change from men to women, they always kept those around. David has that. He always stows it somewhere nearby.
He has. Yeah.
Nearby, but that's where he's got all of his important stuff. That's where he keeps that pea coat, because he's always got that pea coat, It's like he has
like,
his.
How come you haven't ripped out of that yet?
Because he always takes it off before he's like once he gets to the place he takes it off. Says no, not gonna damage the pea coat. Put that in the leather bag. Put the leather bag to the side. Stow it somewhere. Put it somewhere I can get to it later. Because
no one would find out where it is.
Yes, because right now I'm in the place and I could Hulk out at any moment. But he doesn't get stressed out when he's hitchhiking. Apparently, that's what we can determine. The only time he ever had a Hulk out when he was hitchhiking was when he got picked up by the crazy rodeo gal, and they got into a car accident, and that was only because his hair actually caught on fire. So
That's terrible.
It's a crazy show, man.
It is a crazy show.
But it's good.
Did you notice? I was doing some research and I was looking at the movies that they had, the TV movies, the Trial of the Incredible Hulk.
Oh yes, I hope.
I never seen it, but they referenced Daredevil. Daredevil.
Oh yes,
is in it, and I'm going, huh? What? A link up? Oh my gosh!
Yes. No, okay. So there were 3 movies made. There was The Incredible Hulk Returns, which co-stars Thor. There was The Trial of the Incredible Hulk, which co-stars both Daredevil and the Kingpin, played by John Rhys Davies.
Yes.
And to which I will always say he will always be Kingpin to me. Love D'Onofrio's Kingpin, not going to deny that. But I have a very special place in my heart for John Rhys Davies and his gyrocopter desk, which if we get to watch it, you'll see the gyrocopter desk. You'll go, oh, why doesn't Vincent D'Onofrio have a gyrocopter desk? And then the third one is the death of the Incredible Hulk. Kind of telegraphed that plot line. And there was a character in there who was supposed to be Black Widow.
Oh.
She's not Natasha Romanoff, but it is revealed that she is a Russian spy, and she's very much implied to be. She's very much based off that in some variations of the story she was supposed to be Natasha Romanoff, but again, anti-fan service, they kind of dial it back. But yeah, she's very much based on the Black Widow. Then the fourth movie that they would have had they not had I think Bill Bixby died. It would have been I don't know what they would have called it, but they had actually did screen tests with Brigitte Nielsen to be She-Hulk.
Oh.
And the idea was to start a She-Hulk franchise. So.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all the Hulk trivia. But we don't get to that. But we might get to, once we get through all of these, and once we find the rest of the episodes, we might get to those movies. That's my hope. That's my dream. Okay. Yeah. Rose, how can people find you?
On the SochMed. I'm on the SochMed.
Yeah, on the SochMeds, yes. Not SochMeds. That's a different thing.
I just forgot who I was there for a second. 80s Music Girl on Twitter, 80s Music Girl on Facebook, and 80s Music Girl on Instagram.
Awesome. And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet The Incredible Hulk, 7 o'clock on Saturdays on MeTV, as well as other shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Legends of Tomorrow and Powerless, which I wasn't able to do tonight because we're recording at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Thank you for joining us once again for Season 4 of The Incredible Hulk, ladies and gentlemen. Please Hulk out with us again.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.